Hello, my name is Melissa Treinkman. I'm so excited to be here today to chat with Lindsay Mendez. You can read more about her in Volume 82, Issue 1 of the Vocal Point column in the Journal of Singing. That's the 2025 September-October issue. 𝘠𝘪𝘯𝘨, one of your most iconic roles, but then you won the Tony for Carrie Pipperidge in Carousel. Can you talk to me about that amazing feat of vocal versatility?
I grew up kind of studying with a few different voice teachers, but really kind of working on the voice as a whole, but definitely specializing in belt. As a kid, you're always kind of, screaming and just getting it out there. And so I think belt felt closer to kind of just who I was when I was first kind of coming up in New York. So attacking 𝘠𝘪𝘯𝘨 while extremely demanding, just, the 8 shows a week of it all and just the score itself, it felt closer to what I had done in the past in my career. But then when Carousel came about, I loved the role so much and I really wanted to do it. And when I auditioned for it, they sent me the song in lower keys. They sent Mr. Snow and they were like, you can choose what key you want to do it in. So I think for the audition, I did it in a lower key in more of a mixed place. But
Wow.
when I got the job, I really in my own heart was like, I want to do this in the original. I want to find that voice again. I want to study. So I went back to studying again. I worked with Victoria Clark a whole bunch on it. She's one of my mentors and
Neat.
she really helped me. And I would work every morning. I would come an hour early before everyone got there and just work it. I'm watching Renee Fleming sing soprano and thinking like, how am I going to do this? But, she gave me a lot of support and I just felt like it was a challenge I really wanted to tackle. And it ended up just kind of my voice just kind of blossomed there and felt so good. And I was like, oh, this is where we're supposed to be singing 8 times a week. It felt so much easier and more natural for me. And then, belting my brains out every night. So yeah, I ended up just kind of going for it and taking the leap. And now I feel like I'm so grateful I did that because now I really call to that sound, that soprano sound, whether it's mixed or more head legit in everything that I do. So that moment, besides, winning a Tony for it, really just was my own kind of come to terms with my voice and what it could do and how good it could feel.
When I watch you perform, you have something about you that's electrifying, like your voice, your acting, everything. It feels like it's just like so on fire all the time. Is that something that just kind of comes naturally to you?
I take a supplement. Well, thank you for saying that. I don't know if you're feeling anything off of me. It's probably just like immense joy to be in the space that I'm in and getting to do the thing that I really love to do. And so I don't know if maybe that's what people feel, that I'm just present, but it's a combination of loving what I do and also really embodying and understanding this person that I'm playing and being on their journey for the people that I'm performing for.
Do you experience performance anxiety?
Yeah, I will say when I'm out with an audience, I feel safe. I feel comfortable there. When I really have my anxiety is in the rehearsal room, when
Mm.
I'm in front of my peers and when I'm like working with the people who wrote the piece or the people who are bringing the piece to me. That's when I really feel like I stink and like I'm
Mm.
going to be fired. I have this kind of constant fear of being fired. Not that I've been fired before, but I don't know. It's something where I always feel like the worst in the room. But in a way, I kind of channel that anxiety as like, that's a good thing because it means I really care about what I'm doing. And I also think like it just drives me to come back the next day and try again. You do this 8 times a week. So, like, it's not always going to be the same every night. Thank God. You get another chance to try it again tomorrow. Like try something new tomorrow. Did that acting beat land? Did that joke land? No. Did I crack? Sure. I'll try again tomorrow and something new will happen. And there's
Mhm.
something really forgiving about that, the life of doing a show every night. I always tell my students, like, for me, like, if you have anxiety for an audition or something like that, 9 times out of 10, it's because you're not prepared. You have
Mm.
got to be prepared. If you are nervous about hitting that note, then you haven't worked it enough. If you feel lost in what you're doing, you don't know your story well enough. You know what I mean? Like you have got to work it. And then there's nothing to be nervous about because you know what you're doing. So I just feel like that's such a big part of the puzzle.
And in terms of these really difficult roles, for example, 𝘬𝘑𝘯 that you've sung, do you have any memories of just dealing with how am I going to get through this 8 show week, stamina wise? I forget how long you did that show for.
Yeah, I did it for 9 or 10 months. I lived like a nun during that time. I was home all day, steaming, resting, warming up. To prepare for it, I would sing on the treadmill every day to get my stamina up. And I didn't eat any dairy, like anything I thought would affect, what was happening here. I trained a lot with a couple different teachers to kind of get ready. And then through the run, also, I would, have check ins about it. And it was really hard. And I remember there was like, I did it during the 10th anniversary and I had a ton of press where like I would have to, do the show at night and then wake up at 4 in the morning to be at the Today Show to do it then and then go home. And they're like, you can nap between. And then I had to be there for the 10th anniversary performance that evening. And then the press afterward and the party and like my voice was like absolutely done after that. I remember I had to take like a week or almost 2 weeks, I think, off just because I was swollen and I was tired. And I think that show, I had never really missed shows like that before, but that show really taught me that like you only have this one set of vocal cords and you have to take care of them and you have to know your limits. And these scores, they're hard scores, these new musical theater scores coming out. And I just felt like I have to honor my body and say like I'll do the best I can, but no show one night is worth like potentially hurting myself or doing something that I regret. So I really learned like kind of management during that time and taking the rest that I needed to take when I needed to take it.
So what's harder, 𝘬𝘑𝘯 or being a new mom?
𝘬𝘑𝘯𝘯.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's good.
𝘬𝘑𝘯, no question. Yeah. Because the marathon of it, I mean, it's constant being a mom, but,
Yeah.
you know, I don't feel the pressure to perform for my children.
Tell me a little bit about your recent experience on Broadway. I'm so mad that I did not get to see Merrily We Roll Along. It was a phenomenon, right?
Well, they just announced it. We made a film and it's going to be released in theaters soon. So
Oh,
you'll
I'm
get to see it.
so excited. That's
Yeah.
amazing. Right.
Yeah, it's going to be really great. I'm thrilled that we got to capture it. But yeah, that the Merrily experience, it's the rangiest show I've ever sung.
Oh,
It's
cool.
like because most of the time I'm singing with the boys in male keys.
Oh, wow.
It was really high, like really high, but it couldn't sound, head voicey high. It had to be like mixed
Yeah.
because it's Sondheim. It was like very speaky. And so I just feel like I was all over the place vocally, which was actually great because I kind of felt like I got a good workout through the whole thing. I had an issue though. The theater was, for whatever reason, that theater and I just did not get along. I was super allergic to it. And a lot of these theaters are really old and they're dusty. And, I have asthma and I was coughing a lot from just being backstage. And I coughed and hemorrhaged one of my cords.
Oh, wow. You poor thing.
I had to take off and obviously heal. And, I tried to do everything I could to heal. I felt horrible. I had never hemorrhaged in my life. And it was from coughing. I healed up. I came back. And then, like a month and a half later, I did it again.
Oh,
And I was like, what's happening? And
oh,
I'm at my ENTs every day. I'm just like, I don't know. I have never hemorrhaged in my life. I know I'm like, I can't cough anymore. Like, what's happening?
right.
Come to find out, I was taking an allergy inhaler for my asthma that was causing me to hemorrhage. It was like
Wow.
making my cords susceptible to hemorrhage.
Like making the blood vessels a little more
Yes.
prominent. Wow.
Yes. But it took like that long for me to figure out because it was a daily inhaler.
Yes.
And so I had started it at the beginning of Merrily and it was just awful. And as soon as I got off of it, I didn't hemorrhage anymore, but then I was really struggling with my asthma.
Right.
And then I got pregnant. And so it was just constantly like trying to save me and navigate it. And it was like, it really was very tough. And I think like after I had COVID, like my asthma just has been worse than it used to be. I really struggled and it was very difficult. And I had to miss shows and I felt terrible. And There's privacy. What do I say? What do they want me to say? I don't know when I'll be better. Only time heals those things. It's like it's an injury. I mean,
Yes. Wow.
but I'm on the poster and I need to be there and I want to be there. And I mean, it was really tough. And then I was pregnant on top of it. And so then even what I could take got smaller, the
Right.
what medicines I could take. And man, it was tough for me. It was
Wow.
really tough.
I did not realize all of that was going on for you. Wow.
I don't think anybody, I think this is the first time I'm actually
Yeah.
talking about it, but I feel
Thanks
like
for
this is the
sharing it with
time.
people. Yeah, the readers and the viewers of the Journal of Singing will really appreciate your candor and sharing that with us.
Yeah, because I think there's a lot of shame around vocal injury. And I think people don't even understand. I mean, I've trained my whole life as a singer and I've done, this is my eighth Broadway show. I've sung way harder than this,
Right.
and screamed way more than that, so it was just, and finally when I deduced, I had to like take away things, start things to really find out like what was going on. You got to advocate for yourself. I had to,
Yeah.
they got me like 3 different purifiers in my room. I wore a mask backstage the whole
Wow.
time.
And those inhalers, I had an experience where I had a chronic cough after being
Mhm.
sick, and I was prescribed one of those asthma inhalers. And it took me a really long time to realize that it was making my voice hoarse. And then once I stopped it, like my voice got way better.
Yeah, because I mean, really, you're spraying it right onto your cords. You know what I
Exactly.
mean?
Yeah. And that show in particular, to go back to like the happy things, when you were cast in that, did you have any idea that it was going to become such a phenomenon, after having
No.
failed originally, right?
Yeah, when I got the script, I was like, I don't want to do this. I was like, I don't know. It just, and Mary too, like she's just a sad character. And I just was like, oh, I don't know if I buy this. My manager was a gigantic fan of Merrily. And he was just like, Lindsay, like, please look at this again. Like, I really see this for you. And it's just like, I don't know. And then I talked to Jonathan.
Yeah.
We'd been friends for a long time. And
Yeah.
he called me and he was like, I'm doing this and you need to do this. He was like, you're the person, you need to do this. And so he and I met with Maria, our director, and I spent an hour with her and I loved her and just thought she was so brilliant. We were like all zooming together and I hung up the Zoom and I was like, okay, I'm in. I want to do it.
Cool.
And then I remember that Dan and John and I like set up a phone call or a FaceTime to get to know each other because John and I didn't know Dan. And we were like, this could be really bad. This was not received well. It could not go well. I guess we'll see. But we all felt a good chemistry. And then they released the tickets and they went in like 10 minutes for the run downtown.
Wow.
And then we were like, oh shit, now we like better be good. We have to figure this out. We have to crack this.
Yeah.
We spent so much time on it and we worked so well together. I mean, neither of them have any ego. They're so brilliant, but also so generous. And we just had a ball and really loved the piece so much and just felt this electricity together. And I think people felt that and that the love that we share in the show is real and you can believe what you're seeing. And the piece is so good. I'm so grateful that I took the job and
Yeah.
and I'm grateful that people loved it and that Sondheim's legacy, and George Furth, that they get to have this now be this revived moment for them. Now people will want to do the show forever and
Right.
it's just it's getting this second chance.
I love that. An underdog story, right? I mean, and
Totally.
correct me if I'm wrong. I think Sondheim sadly passed before your run, right? Yeah.
Yeah, he did.
Oh.
Yeah, I know. I only knew him a little bit, but he would have been just out of his mind for it.
So one thing about you, you seem so comfortable in your own skin. And I was wondering, have you always felt like that since the beginning of your career, or is that something that, in your
It's all a mirage. I don't know. I mean, in some ways, yes, I've been comfortable in my own skin, but in a lot of other ways, I haven't. I've made great choices and I've made terrible choices. And I think I'm just like anybody else, just and any performer dying to be loved and accepted, but also like hating so much of what I do or what I look like, or, I have those days just like everybody else. I think the thing that kind of always stuck with me doing this is, when I grew up, I watched Judy Garland and I watched Julie Andrews and all of these, movie musicals, and that was kind of my gateway. But as I became a woman, I realized like, oh, there's not really anyone that I see that's like me
Yeah.
that's doing this. And I wasn't like the size zero, like ingenue, blonde, what people would classify as that young actress. I didn't look like that. And I didn't sound like that really either. And I think, people would always tell me like, oh, you'll work when you're 40.
Well,
And I was like, well, that's 25 years away. I need to figure something out because I want to do this. I feel like I can. And so I don't know. I just didn't believe them. I just felt like there's nothing else I want to do with my life. So I'm going to go give it a shot. And because there was like no model, I think I always was just like, someone hopefully will like what I have to offer. And I can't try to be anything else because I'm not.
yeah.
And so I think I always kind of had that with me. And then as I got to New York, as people got to know me, I started getting little opportunities, and that just kind of fed that belief. And then every few years that go by, I'm just like, well, what else can I do that maybe someone wouldn't have thought necessarily was right, but then, I could surprise them and I
Mhm.
can surprise myself. And because I'd never seen anyone exactly like me, I kind of was like, well, who knows, what's the limit? I don't know. And now I'm really excited because I am 40, and now all these roles that people told me I could do, I get to start doing those too, which is so
Yeah,
great.
that's so cool. Do you have a dream role?
Oh man, I want to be Rose in Gypsy. I really do. Maybe I can do the next revival
Exactly, right.
of
Yeah.
that in
Oh,
another
yeah, you
15
would be
years. But
amazing. Ah,
yeah, I really want to do that. But I'd say
yes.
besides that, I don't know. Theater's hard. And right
Yeah,
now I'm in this season of my motherhood. Like my older daughter's almost 4 and my baby is 6 months. And I
yeah,
can't imagine going back to a theater every night right now. Doing
yeah,
more TV and film right now, and
yeah.
some voiceover stuff, and just trying to enjoy this season because I feel like it
Right.
just goes by so fast.
We have a lot of students, I teach at USC, and our
Hmm.
students graduating, moving to New York, doing that, grind. And I just look at them and I feel so bad because it's so hard. And,
It is
I
so
never
hard.
experience that. But any advice you can offer them, even just to get an audition, right? If you're not union, I mean, that whole rat race seems
Oh
just
yeah.
cruel and unusual punishment.
Yeah, I mean, I would say find a community. I
Mm.
mean, and that goes with, if, find any friend who's also moved out there who's an actor, cling on to your friends, go take a acting class. And then with your friends, you can not only like share about auditions and help each other in that way, but you could also like plan a reading together of a play, or like put a cabaret on, or like do some things that make you feel like an artist rather than just an audition machine. Because I think a lot of people, if you just get locked into only doing that, you
Mhm.
start to get lost and think like, what am I even doing this for? Do I even like this anymore? I don't know. And I
Yes.
think you need that constant refresh of like, yes, I'm an artist, yes, I love to do this, this is my dream, I want to create and be creative. So I would say that's like number one to me, is to have a community of support who also are like-minded people and do what you do. And I always felt like if my peers were winning, then a win was on the way for me too. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Like, I'm hanging out with all these people. Oh, they just booked something. They booked something. Okay, it's going to be my turn soon because we're all riding on that energy together. So I've always felt like that was true as
Yeah.
well.
You still have your company, Actor Therapy, is that right?
Yes,
So,
yes,
yeah,
I
tell
do.
me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I would say in a lot of ways, actor therapy was created for the actor who's moved to New York
Yeah.
and is lost,
Yeah.
you know,
Perfect.
because I felt that way. And almost every person I know who's come here has felt that way. So, my business partner, Ryan Scott Oliver, who's an amazing composer, he and I, we noticed that there was like a gap in mentorship and in just like guidance for people once they got there. And so we kind of started teaching. We were like, let's see if people wouldn't want to join us for a few weeks, and we can kind of work on their audition book. We can work on their brand, like what they're selling. And if they're bringing that into the room, we can kind of hold a mirror up and say, this is what we're seeing. Are you happy with your material? Are you happy with what you're wearing? And that first meet, that you're
Mm.
giving the best chance for yourself to really like shine and be authentically who you are.
And you're a very gifted teacher. I've seen you give master classes, and the way, like, you're like, oh yeah, 10 minutes with each student, and you just are able to zero in on something so helpful. It's
Oh, thank
yeah,
you. It's so fun. I love that challenge of being like,
yeah,
oh, I have 10 minutes. Okay, great. Well, we can do something really impactful here, in this time. And I'm not going to tell you who I think you are, or I don't want to ever like crush anybody's spirit or make them
mhm,
feel like they don't have a place here, because
yeah.
I don't know, anyone can have a place here.
I think of you as such an amazing actor and, of course, an amazing singer. But I was wondering, when you're in a show, are there moments where you're thinking about your technique, or is it usually just 100% character by that point and you've done that work before? Like, how do you approach balancing?
Yeah, the singing happens really early in the process for me, where
Mhm.
I figure out where I'm going to put stuff and how I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Because I do not want to be thinking about that in a show. And I'd say like the only time I'm thinking about that is if I'm like really sick, but
Oh,
if
right.
I'm like, I have a horrible cold, but I came in today and like
Yeah.
I have nowhere to resonate, like good luck. But other than that, I'm never thinking about, that.
Yeah.
And that's what I was saying earlier about preparation. I mean, I shed it to death, until I never question where it's going to go or what it's going to feel like. And I use my music directors. I ask for extra time. I really try to use everything at my disposal, my outside lessons, to just be totally prepared for that moment so that I can really focus on the storytelling and all of that. And I don't have to think about the technique anymore.
So when you're not in a show like now, right, you have a 6-month-old, are you
Mhm.
still practicing your singing on a daily basis, or what's that like for you when you're not in a show at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, I still have concerts that I am
Sure.
preparing,
Right.
and I teach, so I still feel like I'm singing, 3 or 4 times a week. Yes, I'm not to the extent that I am during a run,
Yeah.
but I keep up my instrument absolutely, and I even have some like new challenges that I want to try. So I'm like, oh, maybe I'll take some lessons and just sing for fun, because I want to challenge myself and not feel like I'm always preparing for something I have to do, but to
Mm,
remind myself that like I love to sing and it's
yeah.
fun to sing. And also like your voice changes with age, with childbirth, with all of that.
Yeah.
And like, what's it going to be today? And what else can
Right.
I find? And,
Yeah.
still really always being like a student and
Mhm.
curious. I mean, I think that's so important, and you need that as a reminder of why you're doing it.
I told some of my students, I'm like, I'm going to be interviewing Lindsay Mendez this week. Any questions you want to ask her? And they all go, how do we be her? Right?
Oh my God.
Oh,
Be
yeah.
yourself. I mean,
Right.
that's how, that's my like number one advice is like take the best parts of what make you and bring those into everything you do and into your auditions.
If you could go back and give yourself a piece of advice when you were, coming up, what would that be?
I think, there were so many times I was worried that I needed to like change things about myself. And I wish I could have taken that off of my own plate
Yeah.
and just said like, why do you want to be like everybody else?
Mm,
Just feeling that pressure of like, oh, maybe no one will see me, or I need to fit in this, when actually it was what was different about me was why people connected and
yes.
what they wanted. But sometimes it takes a while to see that, I think, when you're, growing up and insecure and all of those things.
Thank you so much for taking your time out today. Everything that you said was just pure gold, and I so appreciate you.
My pleasure. I'm such a big fan of singers. Keep going, keep growing.